You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey guys, welcome back to Cards to the Moon. This is episode 294, and my name is Clark from 5cardguys.com and at 5cardguys on Instagram, YouTube, and on Facebook. Co-hosting with me as usual is Hyung at Cho Young on IG, and John, he's away, swamped with work, but we told him anytime he gets a chance, a breather at work, he'll join us hopefully soon. All right, but it's good to be back for the first episode together since coming back from my vacation. And there were a couple of big announcements which happened while I was in France. So let's cover those because I'm curious about your thoughts on them, Hyung. So off the top, let's begin with what Lance Fensterman, CEO of Fanatics Events, teased on our show a couple of weeks ago. If you missed that episode, go back to the interview with Lance Fensterman. And now we know what it is because Michael Rubin, on his IG, he posted that at Fanatics Fest this year, they will be hosting Fanatics Games, which is less than a month away now, right? So it's coming up quickly. So if you are hearing this for the first time, what Fanatics Games is essentially, it's a sports skills competition with 50 regular sports fans. I believe they're soliciting audition tapes right now, and they're going to be competing against 50 professional athletes or celebrities for almost $2 million in prizes. And confirmed participants include Tom Brady, Kevin Durant, Rob Gronkowski, all of who were at the inaugural event last year, Hyung, that we went to. And Russell Wilson's also part of this, as well as comedian Kevin Hart in some kind of sports skills competition. And I saw the list of what they might do. So it's things like pitching accuracy. There's Dick's is sponsoring a closest to the pin virtual golf shot, I guess. Or maybe it's a mini golf. I don't know what the format. And then there's also best WWE superstar entrance, just to name a few. And then I think they take like your 6 best scores out of the 50, events. So whoever finishes in the top 3, these are the prizes. First place wins $1 million in cash.
Crazy.
Second place receives a Ferrari, which is valued at $500,000. And third place gets the LeBron James Topps Chrome Gold Refractor rookie card that's currently valued at $250,000. So there you go. So a lot of information there. What do you generally think about this?
A lot of stuff to unpack, but I feel like it goes into the same direction every time you ask me these questions because we're literally just, I think it's a marketing genius because so one, you got to understand why they're doing this. Fanatics Fest is something massive for them in terms of their long-term plan. And as a marketing tool, Fanatics has been growing this as an ecosystem. And for us, we've talked about this a lot, how sports, culture, media, marketing, influencers, that's exactly what they're doing with this. It's kind of like a bread between the Hunger Games and like Mr. Beast.
Right.
You know what I mean? For entertainment purposes with the influencers. So how many millions and millions of views? What's the prize pool? $2 million total?
Yeah.
Right? And to me, if that's in your marketing budget to make hundreds of millions potentially, what's that in terms of brand value, right? So for me, it's pretty genius. Whether they'll see it in direct sales from the actual event, I think last year, about 70,000 people showed up to the event last year. Mm-hmm. I think a lot more people are going to show up just based on that, right? Mm-hmm. And then the residual value of how they're going to monetize, who knows? But what I am seeing from this is it's genius marketing. It's understanding how to maximize organic exposure and create original content. And to me, it's It's exactly what I would do if I was Fanatics.
Especially if you have that kind of budget, for sure.
Yeah, you're playing like if you could do anything you want, what would you do?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. You know what's funny though? Like, I know there's reports. I don't know if I could call them reports, but there's like rumors, and people have heard things that the inaugural fest actually lost a ton of money. And who knows what the cash flow situation is for this second year for Fanatics Fest. But the fact that they're putting $2 million budget just on prizes in as part of the marketing budget tells me that they're still all in on this,
Sure.
and who knows what the actual numbers are. And maybe they are losing money for the first one and even the second one, but it's too early to tell whether it's truly successful or not.
For sure.
Right? It's because as long as they keep on doing it, in my books, there's some degree of success because they think they're building on something even bigger and it's going to pay off at some point.
Absolutely. It's never black and white with business and marketing and companies the size of Fanatics. You're not looking for immediate ROI on the event. There's so much impact from a marketing standpoint, intangible value that we cannot calculate. So of course, people could audit last year and say, what a fail. You've lost money. But that's not the proper way to look at it. You got to look at it as what actual impact is this having to their overall vision and goal? And if they can execute properly, what does that put Fanatics in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years?
Yes.
In terms of brand value, in terms of building culture, how much is that worth? Tying culture, communicating fan experience. You're communicating fan experience with pop culture, celebrities, influencers. And not to say that I don't want to put that in our frame of work, like we should idolize these people, but let's call a spade a spade. Reality is those people have the most influence, especially people like Kai Cenat, Speed, streamers in that pop culture in general, because they already have the audience, an audience that never was introduced to what Fanatics has to offer. Specifically in our niche is sports cards, memorabilia, right? So for me, that's the value. That's the little minuscule $2 million investment in an event like this. Like I said, if you had an unlimited budget and your end goal was to create enormous amounts of revenue, what would you do? This is Fanatics' creative way of executing. Whether it'll be successful or not, obviously you have to execute at the end of the day.
Yes.
But with the people involved, I think they're in good shape.
Yeah. And going back to like even the first year when we went, I think by and large, those that went in person had a great time. And they're bringing that back to the people they know back home. And I'm sure some people are like, wow, I don't want to miss out on this event. And now they have this new thing, Fanatics Games, to look forward to. And I would imagine that more people will come. And they've expanded the space, as I was speaking with Lance the couple weeks ago. And then, like they've taken some of the feedback that we've given them to kind of, I don't know, in the latter half of that interview, he was mentioning how they're going to spread out the card show area so that it's not just isolated in one section like it was last year. And I think that's a good thing in terms of exposure to the hobby to just regular sports fans. Yeah. So I think that tells me that they're taking this feedback seriously. And I think it's going to add to, the benefit of the hobby. So I'm looking forward to it. I know there's always going to be naysayers. We always say this all the time, but I think time will tell, right? And I might be personally biased having attended the first one, but I think Fanatics Fest is going to be an ongoing huge thing that will rival in parallel at some point, even possibly, and this might be blasphemy to some, the National, in terms of being a sports card show, a legit sports card show event. And I know Lance said it's not really the same thing. It's going to be different than the National and both can coexist, which I do believe. But, for some people, they might have to choose, and we'll see how that plays out as well.
Yeah, and I think comparing the two, I think you can't compare it because they're two separate events. But what I would say is, like, I hope that the National is listening, but like, see the innovation within 1 year. Like, we went to the Fanatics Fest last year, and it was good. Obviously, it's the first one, so we didn't know what to expect or compare it to, but seeing what they've done already within 1 year, the changes they're implementing to make it a better experience. That's exactly what we need to do with every card show, every, national event within our community to make it better. Whether or not we get there, the most important thing, I think, is, community engagement, merging, the culture with the actual people within the hobby. So these events are imperative. They're needed, but it's how the leaders execute it is ultimately what's actually going to matter. We could have all these dreams and visions, but if they can't execute and create an amazing event that's better than the year before, they're going to struggle to keep up with what Fanatics is doing. So for me, I would like to see, one, they have to coexist, I think, because from a national perspective, you're getting the hobbyists, at least the people that actually care about the hobby, whereas Fanatics Fest, you're hitting up a whole different demographics. You're bringing new people into the culture that's never seen or owned a slab before. You got to realize this is how you grow the hobby. You don't grow it by thinking that Topps is just releasing more. They know that it could blow up if they overprint. So what do? They keep the supply demand relevant by bringing in more people into the hobby. And the way they do it is they use marketing and media as a tool to tell that narrative and co-create now organic content. So they're almost telling the story for us.
So like, that's a really good point, because sometimes we talk about supply and demand and we're like, oh, there's too much supply. But what I'm hearing is that what Fanatics is potentially doing is also increasing the demand side of things, right? So that's
100%.
So you can increase supply if you increase demand, and that's how you grow this industry.
And absolutely, people don't realize, we just see it from a hobby perspective and say, oh man, here's another out of 164 parallel, of different, and that's all we see, right? But from a larger scale, the print run is going to be still relevant to the demand. And that's why we see it as hobbyists, and a next product just sells out within a day, right? Like the Otani 50/50, set or whatever. Like, those things sell out. Why do you think they sell out? If there wasn't demand, they wouldn't sell out.
That's right.
There's not enough supply. It's just the way markets work. Real estate market, crypto, stock. That's how it works, right?
Yeah, for sure. Even as we're talking, I kind of changed my mind, or I rethought what I said about, how we have to choose, or some of us might have to choose between Fanatics Fest or the National. That might be a reality for some. But if the hobby continues to grow, the people that are introduced to the hobby on the Fanatics side, maybe they actually go to the National next year. You have more people going to the National, and that's how they coexist together, because more people can go to both.
100%. If I was the National, I would look at it as an opportunity, saying, hey, if I'm seeing year to year increase over participants in general, and a double-digit increase, of course I'm going to, jump on that plane. Why am I going to try to fight that? Yeah.
For sure. I think, the National should probably even have a presence at Fanatics Fest. Maybe they should think about that for the next one.
100%.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to hobby headlines. Now I want to move on because this other big announcement is also dealing with Fanatics. And it's that Complex, which is the pop culture website and magazine, they're teaming up with Fanatics to produce a new series called Card Shopping. And that's going to explore the world of trading cards with some of the biggest names in pop culture. I don't know if you've seen Sneaker Shopping. It's from the same guys that produced that show, where celebrities and they go to a local shoe shop and then they pick up 5, 6, 7 pairs and they pay for it themselves. They talk about why they like those sneakers. it's in that similar format. And you might have already seen a clip from the first episode of Card Shopping. It features none other than Tom Brady, the GOAT of QBs. And I believe it was filmed in the New Jersey Card Vault location. And in that clip, he was talking and he spotted a rookie autograph card of Patrick Mahomes. And he called Chris Costa over. It's like, hey, I want this card. So Chris Costa's like, all right, let's take this out of inventory. And then he was joking that Tom Brady doesn't get a discount on that card. So you might have seen that clip, but I think that's from the first episode. For this discussion, though, let's begin with this concept of having athletes and celebrities interviewed for a series like this with what I assume will be very high production value because of the budget.
Right. And it's going back to, ties into everything we were talking about, At the end of the day, they're making, original content that is of high quality. And again, they're co-creating the narrative. So think if we grew up in this era when we were 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, 11 years old, and we see stuff once we get access to Instagram, we try making our first flip off sneakers or, do whatever. This is all being introduced to you. So think about the future generation of how impactful something like Complex and teaming up with, the media companies that showcase pop culture. And that's just to prove our point of what Fanatics is trying to do, is they're collabing with pop culture media companies to tell that narrative and co-create that narrative of what they're trying to actually accomplish. And to me, that's the best way, especially if you have budgets in this day and age, is you create the marketing to tell the story, to now go into the direction that you want everybody to follow. And to me, the way you do that is, who are the biggest influencers? Who are the biggest people that can have that voice? Mm-hmm. Right? And Tom Brady is a pretty big name. I mean, it's probably one of the best names you could have, in sports pop culture, period.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. We were talking off air about, just providing value through hobby content or content in general, right? And I think this is kind of adds to that discussion. And the second follow-up question I want to ask was that, do you see these kind of high production shows that are just coming in right now because, the hobby is growing? Do you see these shows competing with, some of the more organic shows like that we are more familiar with on YouTube, like even Jeremy Lee, Sports Cards Live, people in the hobby are familiar with his content.
For sure.
Will they compete with them, or even podcasts like ours? We're kind of niche in our own way as well, right?
Right.
Or do you think we can all coexist nicely together?
I am the stupid optimist always, right? So I'm always a big believer that everybody could coexist, and the best content is authentic content. So I really don't care what other people think about the content I produce, for instance. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the best recipe, because now you see value in the way you see value. And you don't care about what Fanatics is doing. Fanatics has nothing to do with what I produce as a content. Now, am I going to look at what Fanatics is doing and strategically, be able to set myself up for success in that field? Absolutely. But I'm not going to necessarily create the content for someone else's approval or views, for instance. It becomes more, I truly believe that it's valuable from my perspective that I see it. Therefore, I'm creating this original content. And I think for all the content creators out there, if you follow that recipe, you will always, in the long term, be successful. Because what you're actually doing is, because Fanatics will never have the same content as me, for instance, because they don't have my perspective, which is fine. But I could create niche and it could be on my phone. We have good enough technology where we don't need high quality production. We're spending $15,000, $20,000 a day on a production. You could literally do it for free. And to me, it's going back. If you are a content creator, or you're in marketing, or you want to create something, it's always best to just get better at what you're an expert at. Mm-hmm. So if you have intellectual perspective in the hobby, do more so that you become better and show up every day. And the more you do that, the more value you give your community, the more you give value, you become more valuable to people like Fanatics.
Yes.
So of course you could coexist. Like, you know what I mean? It's never a direct competition because, like I said, we don't necessarily, from Cards to the Moon, and like 5 Card Guys is a little different, but from Cards to the Moon perspective, we never have any intention going forward. Our intention is always, let's shoot the shit, let's talk about cards, let's talk about what's going on. And this is my unbiased opinion.
Yes.
Of course you're going to disagree, but who cares? Everybody's going to disagree at some point, but it's not about that. It's about creating that content. So going back to all what you just said, I think it has nothing to do. If anything, there's more opportunity in this field because they're opening up things that we can't. We can never open up those conversations of changing a whole industry to create something absolutely brand new. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So for me, I think it's great. We're all witnessing growth within the hobby. Now, is it always going to be joyful growth? There's going to be a lot of painful moments within the hobby, and we've seen it. We could talk about how bad things are within the hobby, but at the end of the day, this is the evolution of the hobby itself. So you have two perspectives. You either become Bitter Bob within it, or you become your creative self and explore it and enjoy the whole process, good and bad, right? So,
yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think what we're doing here is just being obviously authentic to ourselves, and it's our perspectives, and even working together. We play off each other really well because we've known each other for a long time. And I think people appreciate that. And you can't recreate those kind of things because, we have our friendships. We got this hobby in common that we love. And, it was more of a rhetorical question for me. Of course, I think we can coexist. And even more than that, you've seen where bigger companies like Fanatics or in other industry, bigger companies don't buy out. Some of them do buy out the smaller shows, or they bring them under their umbrella to help them produce even more shows and help them scale, help them get more eyeballs on their shows. So that's even a possibility. And I like when you said that, if anything, there's more opportunities like that within the hobby, right? Because Fanatics could easily see our shows and like, hey, we like what you guys are doing. We like the smaller audience, that you're that are following you every week for the last 5 years. And I think that's important. And, we've seen it in I was just listening to the Bill Simmons podcast, in the world of comedy, right? Back in the day, you have your major networks and they produce these 11:30 Tonight shows and with David Letterman, Jay Leno, back in the Conan O'Brien, and I'm dating myself because none of those guys are there now, right? Except, who is it now? Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Fallon, and Jimmy Kimmel. But they're competing against, we kind of mentioned it earlier, influencers are on YouTube who have million views after an hour of uploading their videos. You don't get those kind of numbers from network TV anymore. Right.
And then the next generation to that, who do you think they know more of?
Right, exactly.
Right.
And that was Bill Simmons' point. It's like, are the 4 major talk show hosts right now the last of their kind? That question is being asked right now,
100%.
Right? It's like, back in the day, it's like, who's going to replace Letterman? Oh, it's going to be such and such. Who's going to replace Leno? We're not having that discussion. And he also mentioned, John Mulaney, who's a famous comedian. He has his own show on Netflix. Like, that's a different format. He gets to do whatever he wants. He has more freedom there, and his audience is going to follow him there, and he's not competing against, Jimmy Fallon or all the other current talk show hosts, because there's more opportunities to produce content and to distribute them other than what we used to have.
And I think that's a good point that you mentioned. If you look at the evolution of just communication and marketing in general, you go from print media to radio to television to internet now. And that's why it's like, I'm not even stopping there. It's like, we're in that internet era, but it's going to go crazier because we don't know what technology is going to now be the next communication method. So for me, it all follows a same fundamental regardless, right? If you understand how marketing works, then you could understand and use that skill set regardless of what technology bearers we have. And part of that, what you mentioned is if that television era is gone now, which we all agree, it goes hand in hand. People who are TV stars, you think they're going to be stars in society today if they're not relevant within the technology communication tools that we have today? And that's my whole point, is you utilize that. And even if you're not a creator, I'm telling you, there's going to be some point in your life that if you buy into this, what we're talking about, it will benefit you in some way. Regardless, whether it's a partnership, whether it's a business deal, whether it's buying something, it's going to help you because that's the way our whole, I guess, fundamentals of the way society and communication works now. And Web3 in the next couple of years is going to totally change everything. Sure. So to me, it's like being ahead of the curve, and becoming kind of like that newer version of what you thought was not possible. And that's why I think stop following the trends as a creator too. I think that's the problem why maybe content sucks sometimes, is because we try to create the same content that somebody else created and then everybody just follows that trend where you miss the whole point of value. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that whole evolution of the media is so important to look at. And is on the Bill Simmons podcast, that's exactly what they're saying. Of course, it's done. Like even influencers, even being an influencer is kind of like done. You have to have more than just being an influencer, and you see it. Guys like organizations like Fanatics, they're partnering up not with just influencers. These guys are entrepreneurs. These guys are like, they've established a strong foundation within their own life, not just, oh, I have 10 million followers. It's like, no, it's deeper than that. So you got to just be more than an influencer these days too.
That's also true for sure. And, I just want to go back to your point quickly about, the landscape changing in terms of where attention is. It used to be on TV and now on the internet, and that's going to evolve even further. And the smart, savvy celebrities, influencers, athletes, they're already doing that. They're not just trying to get booked on the late night shows. They're actually going on these internet shows as well. Like one thing that comes to mind right away is Hot Ones. If you've seen that YouTube show, it started on YouTube where they eat chicken wings and it gets progressively hotter. And Sean Evans will ask them a question while they're going, nuts with the hottest sauce that they have, they're tasting, and they become a little bit more truthful. Kevin Hart's been on that show. Do you know what I mean? Like they know that, oh, okay, now I got to do, to stay relevant, I got to go on these kind of shows. And even, like to a much, much smaller degree for ourselves, we're just starting out. We're 5 years in. That's, our success in a way for us, but we feel like we're just starting too. And, in our 5th season, we got Gary Vee. He's a smart, savvy guy as well. You think he would just do, the big network shows, or, like he knows like, we're kind of flattered that he would come on our show because he knows that we have a certain audience as well. And he's just kind of doing his rounds on even other similar sized podcasts in the hobby. So I hope that people see that there is just such a great opportunity here, and stop thinking the old way of like, a big company's coming in and they're going to completely take over. Right. So yeah, I'm glad we had this kind of discussion because it's just exciting. Like, I think this is another sign really that the hobby is growing. It's evolving for sure. But as we're still in it, let's just evolve with it and just be you at the end of the day. Yeah.
I was actually talking to Denzel Clark, who got called up, with Sacramento, Oakland. Or I guess, with the Athletics. And basically, we were talking about how like 15 years ago when I was coaching, that age group where it was kind of like more the youth, we were preaching stay away from social media. Because it was like the dangers of what you post on social media, to now we're talking about, the business aspect of baseball, and they're actually encouraged to establish that personal brand now. So to see, like 10 years ago, we were saying, we're teaching that to baseball players. And now they're teaching the complete opposite, saying this is part of it. Part of it is your personal brand. If you're an athlete, you gotta have the other side of you. If you're a celebrity, you gotta have that other side of you. Is that personal brand within our communication device? So just on that conversation alone, it tells me exactly where we are as a society, where we were 10 years ago. And if we use the same thinking methods 10 years ago, we'll be complete opposite of where we're actually going.
Yeah. And that's a whole different discussion too, the pros and cons of social media. But I think we can agree on now is that you just have to be smarter with social media. Social media could still do some big damage to you if you tweet out something stupid, right. and
you gotta be
whatnot.
Strategic.
But you gotta be strategic, you gotta be smart, and at the end of the day, you like KD, for example, he's a good example of like, okay, he's pretty authentic when it comes to his social media use, and sometimes it gets him in trouble. That's the flip side of things too, right? But for the most part, he's certainly got more attention, stayed more relevant, even off the basketball court because of social media.
For sure.
Anyway, like I said, whole different topic. Maybe we'll discuss it in the future, in particular when it comes to the hobby, because I know, some people have an issue with it. It's very interesting to see social media content in the hobby right now. Like some people are taking a break because the trolls are really getting to them. Right. And the type of content you put out, sometimes, especially the more controversial ones, they come to bite you back, let's just say that, right? And if you can't handle it, sometimes it is good to take a break, right? And so, again, whole different episode, but I'm glad we had this discussion on hobby content, because I think good things are generally coming soon. Okay, let's move on to our next segment called Quiz Show. All right, so I was thinking there are a lot of other pieces of hobby news that happened while I was away. So I'm going to do it in a quiz show format. Some of these questions might be easy for you because you might have heard it on the news already, but for the benefit of those, and maybe even for yourself, Hyung, that are hearing this for the first time, this will be a fun way to
This is always how I learn too, Clark.
Okay. So you might go 0 for 5 in this one.
Yes.
So all right. Question 1. Which non-sports Topps Now card set the record as the highest selling card with 133,535 copies sold?
Non-sports Topps Now card? Was that recent?
Yes. All this is fairly recent and within the last month. 133,535 copies sold.
It would have to be something to do with entertainment, I'm assuming. So maybe either WWE or pop culture, some form of that.
Yeah, well, WWE, people can say that's more sports, I guess, but
okay.
I don't think you would have guessed this if you haven't heard about it. It is the Topps Now card of Pope Leo.
Oh, right. Yes. Oh, wow. Interesting.
So
interesting. I forgot
a lot of
about
Catholics
that.
out there. A lot of Catholics out there buying these Topps Now card. And I think recently a 5 of 5 was pulled, and people are thinking that it could be a 5-figure card because the gold out of 50 sold for almost $1,000.
That's insane. And I remember there was like a viral moment going where he was at the 2004 Chicago White Sox game or whatever.
Yeah, it's from Chicago, First American Pope, and I also saw the white smoke variation of that card.
White smoke variation.
Because you get the white smoke when the Vatican decides who the next pope is. So it's
I could come up with some crazy parallels, but for the sake of not getting canceled, I think we
let's move
keep
on.
that to ourselves.
Okay, let's move on. All right. Which sport just announced they will now also have a debut patch for their athletes on the first game or match?
First game or match. I should know these things. A debut.
And obviously, like the other debut patches we've seen in baseball and other sports,
It has to be
WWE.
Yeah,
it's
it has
inserted
to be
into the cards later. Yeah,
That was the
One of ones.
latest, right? WWE. So what's
so.
the next? It has to be the next sport. I would guess. What's the last contract? It's not NFL. It was basketball first, and then NFL.
Basketball's later this year. NFL's
Or
next year.
is it soccer?
Going the wrong direction. You're closer with WWE. There's a clue.
Oh, really? Oh, geez. Is it sports?
Yeah.
Man, I've been living under a rock, apparently.
All right, 0 for 2. The answer is UFC. Mixed martial artists will now have the debut patch under. So I guess they're gonna have a jersey shirt that they walk out on with,
right?
And then that's where the patch is gonna be.
It makes sense. It's like you have WWE, so it's like you get the same thing. It's just the same joke too. It's like, I guess, yeah.
I think they heard that joke so many times that they actually stated in their release that it's going to be on their T-shirt on the walkout. Like, how many times can we hear this spandex underwear joke? All right, question number 3. Last week, 2023 Flawless Triple Logo Man sold for $348,000 at Fanatics Collect. Who are the 3 basketball players on this Flawless Triple Logo Man card?
Oh my god, I have no clue. This
sold for $350K. So these
that
three
has
guys
to be
have
like
to be big.
it has to be like a Steph Curry, LeBron, and you said 3.
Yep.
Unless it's
2023 Flawless.
2023 Flawless.
You said Curry, LeBron, and
was I right in the right direction at least?
You got LeBron. That's one of 3, not Curry. Big guys. 3 big guys.
Who's the biggest? MJ?
No. I mean, like, in physical stature.
Oh, in physical.
Big men.
Like in basketball?
Yep. All basketball. So you got LeBron.
$340K. Who's worth that much that's a big man? So Shaquille O'Neal?
No. Just don't think...
Wemby.
Wemby, you got it. Okay. Number 2.
For sure. LeBron, Wemby, and who else? A triple logo man.
Here's a clue. Multi-MVP winner.
Well, I would imagine it has to be someone. They wouldn't put like... somebody...
Like Ibaka,
Serge, or something like that, right? Sorry, I'm lost, man. I'm 0 for 3.
Wemby, LeBron, and Nikola Jokic.
Oh, Jokic. Yeah. I would have preferred Curry. I would pay $340 for that.
Yeah, well, they have the U.S. Olympic card, so that's worth more, I think.
Right.
Okay, question 4. Let's see. This is baseball related. I think you might be able to guess this. Which baseball card recently went up for auction on Golden, and the bidding has already reached more than $3.2 million?
Wow.
23 days to go as of this recording.
Is it vintage or modern?
It's got to be vintage, right?
If it's 3.2 million. 3.2 million.
What kind of card has that power to have that high rollers bid on this card?
I mean, if it's... Are we talking about another Mantle or a totally different player?
Not the Mantle, but that's a good guess. That was one of 2 I would have guessed right away.
Yeah, like, because there's so much talk. It could be like a PSA 8 or a PSA whatever that's going for 3.2 or whatever.
Here's a clue, all right? This might give it away. It's a PSA 1.
A PSA 1. 3.2. That has to be something...
And it'll go higher than 3.2 for sure.
Is it like a Honus Wagner or Ty Cobb? It's a Honus Wagner?
You got it. T206 Honus Wagner. Yeah, they're calling it, I believe they're calling it the Connecticut Wagner. It's the white border.
Wow. So, yeah. That is insane. You don't see too many.
You don't. I think I read somewhere, I might be wrong. I might have to double check, but the last one in a private sale sold for $7.6 million. So you could be looking at those kind of numbers.
Yeah, I think it would be above that.
Yeah.
Just because you have the mantles, like I think the mantles set the stage of
Yes.
pricing, right? So.
Yep. All right. That was a lot of clues. So I think that's 0 for 4 technically. All right. I don't know if I want to give that to you. So
I don't deserve it. Honestly, I really don't deserve it. I've been very. I admit, like on my hobby homework, I've been absolutely an F.
That's fine because I know that's one of the reasons why you come on this pod to learn.
I learned. This is my way of connecting. People don't understand. It's like I am no longer like anything else but a student of the hobby because it makes me just kind of talk about it.
That's what I like about you. Like you're still in it in that sense, right? So, okay, last question. I don't think you're gonna get this, but last question. Topps announced this past week that a dual autograph card will be in the 2024 Topps Dynasty baseball box. All right, and sorry, I'm doing renos at home, so I'll try to edit as much of the hammering and banging in the background, if that's what you hear on this pod. But anyway, the question. It'll be inserted featuring game-worn memorabilia from this one baseball player, as well as an athlete-used memorabilia from this one Olympian. Who's the baseball player? Who's the Olympian?
Jeez. I wouldn't even know where to start. There's one baseball player and one Olympian?
That's hard, so I'll give you a clue. Think of fast people, speedy people.
Okay. So the Olympian's a runner, and the baseball player has to be fast too. Is it a fast theme?
Well, this guy, he's pretty fast.
Man. I wouldn't even know where to start here. Is it like a Shohei Ohtani?
No, but I like that guess because he obviously stole a lot of bases.
Yeah. He's so 2024. Shohei is, eh?
Come on, man. Think he was like lightning fast. Who could go from first to third, and probably could do an inside the park home run. There's a couple people.
There's a lot. Pete Crow Armstrong.
No,
he's 2025.
Come on, he's going to be on a dual auto. I know PCA is having a great season so far, but
he might win MVP, man.
But this was 20. I'm sure they thought of these players like the year before, right? The season before.
Okay, so 2024. Yeah, sorry, I can't even think at this point. What are we doing even right now? What question are we on?
You're gonna go 0 for 5. All right, the first one. He's on the Cincinnati Reds.
Oh, Ellie De La Cruz. Are you serious?
Ellie De La Cruz, and then the Olympian from Jamaica.
Usain Bolt. But yes. what? Like, I want to know where the thought process of what's the theme of this card?
Fast runners.
That's it. It just
that's kind of cool. You don't think that's cool? Usain Bolt with the Jamaica
it's a Topps
patch
now, or it's inserted in series
the 2024 Topps Dynasty baseball box.
Oh, Dynasty.
Yeah.
See, honestly, if I pulled that card and instead of a rookie patch auto of like a relevant player, I don't know if I'd be pumped.
So you rather have a rookie patch auto of even Ellie De La Cruz over this dual auto?
Yes, 100%. I'd rather a rookie patch. Well, it would be 2024.
Yeah.
So it would be Ellie's year.
No, it would.
2024.
Sure.
Yeah, it would be. He had like 3 rookie years or something like that. I feel like we've been chasing Ellie for the last 3 years.
It's confusing because that Topps Dynasty Baseball is coming out in 2024, but we already have the 2025 Topps Series 1 and 2.
They're on upper deck schedule.
Yeah, come on, the Fanatics. That's the next thing you can work on. All right, let's. You guys done a good thing with the parallels, streamlining that. Let's streamline the years when the baseball sets come out.
You got to catch up.
All right. Well, at least you learned some
Absolutely
5
brutal.
recent news events in the hobby.
I'm okay with that. It's always a learning experience. That's all that matters.
100%. Let's end off the show with our regular weekly segment we call Pick One. All right, and as usual, do you want to start things off for us?
Yep, and I'm going right to Aaron Judge again. I like to talk about this because he's doing ridiculous things. Like, we got to understand. He's doing things that And especially in a Yankees uniform, a lifer. Now, there are items of Aaron Judge that is super overpriced, I think. Not overpriced, but compared to kind of like, I guess, based on his performance, of course, you're going to have the super rare, super desired cards massively overpriced, just like Ohtani is. But at the end of the day, if the market holds, as long as they perform, that might sustain itself for the time being. I still think there's massive buying opportunity for Aaron Judge, because some of the secondary cards of Aaron Judge, they don't get any love. So I'm going to give a $2,000 budget on second tier Aaron Judge rookie autos. And I want to know, and these are sales that happened within the last week. I want to know what you would spend $2,000 on. Okay?
Yep.
The first one is a 2017 Topps Finest green refractor auto. So out of 99, rookie auto, on card.
Yep.
A BGS 95 True Gem. Sold for $2,000.25. Okay? Which I think if you had an Ohtani Finest green, I think you're paying a lot more than that, right? So that's why I like Aaron Judge's secondary card prices. I think there's good buying opportunity. I'm going to pair that up with 2017 Stadium Club, a rookie auto gold foil. So it's numbered out of 50. So this is on card auto. And this is a Min Gem 95, BGS 95. So they're both, the other one was a True Gem. This one is a Min Gem, Auto 10. Sold for $2,000. So $2,000, let's just say even.
Yeah.
Aaron Judge is standing on the Stadium Club. He's looking and with his right arm across his chest, on card auto, beautiful card. And then you have the Topps Finest green refractor, which is a hitting image. And let me tell you, it sucks that the Topps Chrome image is that jumping image of his. So I think a lot of people like hitting images, which he has in different sets. So that's the green refractor.
This one's easy for me because if you've been listening to the pod and if you've been following my hobby career and you know that I was interviewed by PSA about Stadium Club, you know what my answer is. Stadium Club, underrated. I've already looked at this card before in the past. I love the look of that card. I think it could be underrated, iconic Aaron Judge card in the future. I love the gold foil. I don't like the foil variations because it's hard to see sometimes, like the red.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree. They need a better variation.
For sure. But the gold with the gold name, I like that match. So aesthetically, it looks nice. So I'm willing to forgive the fact that the variation of the foil is so small. It's got the RC logo, of course, like both cards. But I love the image. Love that's numbered to 50. Give me the Stadium Club.
Amazing. Wow. That's a true hobby a pick right there.
Yes.
I agree. Stadium Club is super underrated. And I could see a card like this actually kind of having the same vibe as Topps Heritage Real One Autos.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Where it's harder to gem. It's an older card, so it's pre kind of COVID. Harder to gem, so paper versus chrome. You're going to have a lot more scarcity. And here's another thing. A BGS 9 sold for $1,300 yesterday. And that BGS 9 had subgrades of 10 centering, a 9.5 edge, a 10 surface, and an 8.5 corner. So to me, $1,300 for that card out of
I wish I bought it.
Out of 50.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. That's a steal. That's a great buy in my opinion. So I agree with you. I'm not on the train of the chrome. I still love old school paper cards that have value, that are on card auto. Now, if this was a sticker auto, I probably would have totally different story. But they're both on card autos, so which is good. But I'm gonna go with the Stadium Club, even though it's a min gem. I think overall value, it has massive opportunity, especially at that buy-in price point. Like I said, I think Aaron Judge has tremendous value, especially at the rate he's going. Now, his Topps Chrome, his Bowman Chrome 2013, super expensive. It's going to be a premium. So if you're looking to get into something like that, that's a whole different story. We're talking about value-based secondary tier cards. Remember, if Aaron Judge's prices go down, these are the ones that are going to get affected as well. Usually liquidity is a lot harder compared to the Bowman Chrome and Topps Chrome, but a great alternative if you don't have the budget to overextend yourself.
Yeah. That's a good one. And then, it made me curious to see what Ohtani's in value, like his top finest in comparison.
Do you have it?
So I don't know. Is there a green Topps finest for him
in
2018?
There is. I believe so. Okay. I'm pretty sure there is.
Up. It's not showing up. So I found the base one, BGS 9.5.
Oh, you know what? No, I don't. There might not be actually, because
right.
I think
the
autos are only like gold.
There's a gold one and there's an
orange,
yeah,
and then a red. There should be, and a super maybe.
So here, actually, let me look at this. But the base one that recently sold April 26th, 2025, $5,877 a base.
That's crazy.
Yeah, right.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like compare that Topps finest to kind of like a green auto of Aaron Judge 99, which is a cool number too.
Yep. That's a good point too. Yeah. All right. Well, that's a good one. Okay. I'm going to go, speaking of Ohtani, that's my pick one for today. And I just saw this recently. So I want to get your thoughts on this. Okay. Remember I talked about like wanting, all of a sudden I thought that Bowman anime, that manga style Shohei Ohtani 2024, last year, I think it's the first year that they inserted those Bowman anime cards, came out. So the 2024 Bowman anime, there's different refractor parallel levels, but the base one sold for just under 1,000. Okay, PSA 10.
PSA 10, okay.
2024 Ohtani Bowman anime SSP, I think it's an SSP or SP insert, sold for just under 1,000 PSA 10. So Ohtani has a 2025 Bowman anime in the Bowman baseball set this year. A raw one sold for just over $1,000. Which one are you going for? Raw. Sorry. So the 2025 is raw, just over 1,000. It's supposed to be SSP. And then there's 2024 Bowman anime, PSA 10 base, non-numbered, for let's say the same price.
And they're both in Dodgers uniform, right?
They're both in Dodgers uniform. So the images are obviously different.
Yeah, so I just see an inflated premium on current release versus kind of like a year has gone by for the market to stabilize on the older 2023 version. So you're going to get the true price of what that value is a lot more accurate than what the 2025 price is, because that 2025 price is obviously inflated. There's no reason why a newer anime, manga, or whatever you call them, would outsell an older one unless there was actual fundamentals of value. And I don't see any reason why that would outsell other than hype.
Or, I agree with you 100%, but I wonder if this could be true, because Bowman anime and manga in general is all about the art. So you tell me if the art is better. You know what I mean? So I'm going to show you the card. There's 2024, right?
Okay.
So, and it's the initial one. Like, this is the initial. They reintroduced it in 2024. So that's the Ohtani card. And then the 2025, the one that just came out, is this enough for you to pay the premium, or you think it's hype?
No, it's hype. It's just it's a different image. Like the first one. The first one.
Are you an anime expert? People are gonna ask you for
not,
anime.
And that's why I'm an unbiased person. If we're judging images here, which one I like better? Honestly, I got a Tom Selleck vibe in the first one, like a little, like old school Dodgers. Like, whoa, this is like a cool card over this one. Like, if this was a PSA 10, then maybe I would be like. But if it's a raw, there's no question for me. It's like I'd take the PSA 10 for the same price. Like that gives like Tom Selleck vibes in that movie where he ends up becoming on the LA Dodgers. I don't know. I like this one better. This one seems like, because it's been around and people there was hype around it. I really don't see the hype around the new one, other than It's a big pull. If I pulled it, I'd be thrilled, and I would sell it for 1,000 raw, for sure.
I'm not an anime expert too. Maybe I'll ask a friend that's really into anime, and he'll be like,
I'm very interested too, Clark. I want to know the mindset of people who collect anime. And let me ask you a question: Are people who aren't into anime, would they collect that card, or is it just strictly for anime people, or do anime people think it's stupid? Because it's like, what is anime doing in sports? Like, I don't know. I'm interested, genuinely.
I mean, people can argue like, what's that? They have anime in the football and basketball ones too, right? So that seems to be popular.
Yeah, or are you doing it because like the volatility?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm curiously interested because I would not be like, if I looked in my PC, I probably would never have those cards personally.
I thought the same as you too, but remember when I first brought this up, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, because you've already went into the Pokemon life, so
right.
you've already crossed that border. You're all in for any collectibles at this point, including, WWE patch autos or patch napkin autos.
Listen, you might be right, but I don't know if you heard the episode. Will always makes fun of you, Hyung, eh?
What?
He says you're the type of person that would call Pokemon Pokemon.
Pokemon. You know what? I don't have any hate. I don't have the interest. Like, I see the hype and I don't dog anybody for it, but yeah, it's just not my. Yeah, I try.
Sure.
I will say I have had my own Pokemon card too. And
right.
I'm in the positive in Pokemon.
Okay, that's
I bought one for like $450 and sold it for like $550. So that's my only Pokemon transaction.
That's good. I mean, that's not saying much, to tell you the truth, because it's kind of like buying baseball cards during the COVID era. Everyone's up, okay?
I think I had it like for a week and a half.
Right. Yeah. It's Pokemon's kind of going through the same thing with 2021-22 sports cards. So I'm enjoying it too while it lasts. Anyway, going off topic, but another great show. Thank you guys for listening. It was a really fun one, and we'll have a brand new episode for you soon. Talk to you then. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.